We're staying inside the Napa Wine Company family this week, but making a stop at their sister label, Elizabeth Rose. Napa Wine Company has been on a serious heater lately, so now the question becomes, can Elizabeth Rose keep the streak alive, or are we finally cooling off?
Welcome to Stop Wasting Your Wine, a wine review podcast dedicated to helping you discover great wines with great value for every occasion. I'm Aaron, this is the best damn wine show out there, and as always, I'm joined by Colin and Joel, and we are just so excited and relieved to stay in Napa drinking excellent wine from the Napa Wine Company, continuing our deep dive but trying a new from the Napa Wine Company family. We were at Ghost Block for the past 2 weeks, and today we're at Elizabeth Rose and see what they have for us. Guys, you excited?
Super excited about this one. This seems like they're based on price. You know, they're entry level into Napa Cab, or at least a Napa blend. So, you know, I'm excited to see what they bring to the table at the lower price point.
I am excited about that. I've been loving the Ghost Block, so I'm a little sad to be leaving that vineyard, but hey, you know what? If we're bringing the same kind of quality, we're in the same umbrella, same portfolio, expecting good things. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I am glad that we are returning to, I think, our $30 range. I think actually, I think it's a $25 bottle when you can find it. Last week was nice. It was very nice. Yes. It was nice to drink a very nice bottle of wine, and it was $80 to $100. And while I very much enjoyed it, I'm not going to be drinking an $80 to $100 bottle of wine every week. That's just not
Sure.
in my budget.
Sure.
So I like finding the bottles that I can personally afford.
Yeah.
The week before, we had a wonderful Savory that was $30, and that wasn't my budget, and that was delightful. So hopefully this is another wine in my wheelhouse that is also tasty.
In the wheelhouse and tasty. That's all we're looking for. Let's do it.
That's like life mission. So
that's right.
That could be the name, but you should just change the name of the show.
In the wheelhouse and tasty. I don't know if that rings, to be honest. I don't hate it, but
yeah, we'll test it out. We'll try it out a little more. We'll figure it out.
Workshop it, I guess.
Workshop it.
Not sold.
No bad ideas in a brainstorm. All right, so
except for that one, maybe.
Let's Colin, let listeners know what we're drinking today.
Yeah, so tonight we are drinking the Elizabeth Rose Chockablock Napa Valley red wine. This is a blend of 75% Cabernet Sauvignon, 14% Merlot, and 10% Malbec. This is the 2023 vintage. It's coming in at an ABV of 14.1%. And as Aaron mentioned, you can get this in the $20-$25 range.
Very, very cool. All right, so we are going to just dive right into this. I am excited. So let's do our first sips. Let's get our nose in there, take a little sip, and just get the first word that comes to mind. Joel, I just want to really, really emphasize first word. And there's no S at the end of that. It's just a word. It's a singular word. So Colin, I'm going to go to you first, and I'm going to give Joel time to reduce his 3 words that are in his head down to 1 word.
Do I have a reputation that precedes me here? What is this?
At least in my head, you do. I don't know if it's real, but in my head.
Yeah, you're not too far off, Aaron. I'm going to go with savory.
Salty.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
You took everything in me. Everything.
Tannins.
That's an interesting one.
I will get into it later.
I look forward to you expanding on that.
I will get into it later because it's surprise. I'll get into it later.
Okay.
Because I can see your faces and I know why.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Well, I think yeah. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to get into it.
I think we're going to get into it.
I think
we might get into it. Cool.
Right.
If we have time, can we get into it?
We might. All right. I'm proud of us. I think that was a very successful first sip. So we have savory, salty, tannins. Good for us. All right. We're getting better at this, guys. 3 years in. All right. Let's get our nose in here and actually do what wine people do and assess this wine. Joe, what are you getting on the nose?
Really nice. Some red, like, fresh red fruit, a little cherry, a little earthiness in there too. It's a cool mix.
Yeah, you said salty, and it almost smells salty. I wonder if
Mm.
there's some combination of my savory and your salty that kind of
Yeah.
lands in the herbal category, and that's
Mm.
kind of what we're both picking up on.
Yeah. I
Because
like that.
that's a big part of it there, in my opinion. You definitely get a lot of that non-fruit other kind of note in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the fruit, I think you're also getting a little bit of darker fruits in there too. I think
Mm-hmm.
this wine really has a delightful range of fruit. Maybe some darker plum, a little bit of blackberry. But it's nice. It smells really nice.
No, the first thing I got off the top that I don't usually pick out myself is it got a little like pepperiness off the top.
Hmm,
That's nice.
I like that.
And I really like the use of herb. I think I'm getting like more of the herb and like the herb and pepper and a little bit less of the while the fruit is there, it's not as primary as I think I would normally get on a big bold red. It's some of those other herbal, earthy, aromas that are coming off top to me, which I like.
And the alcohol, at least on the nose, is super well integrated. I mean, you get a little bit of it, but it's also 14.1%. So that's no light wine right there. So you do get a little bit of alcohol, but it's not offensive or anything like that. I think it's just part of the wine.
Yeah.
Can we talk about something that's not necessarily, I think, in this bouquet, if you will? Do people still say that? I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, no, but
You say it.
great. I love it.
I believe this wine was aged for 18 months in 30% new French oak barrels.
Man, you got that off the top of your head. Well done.
I did. Yes. Yes. I just happen to
That
know
is
that.
a nose, my friends.
Thank
Thank you
you
for reading the
Yeah.
show notes. Well done.
No, 32% new French. Oh, no, 30%.
man.
30%.
God.
Wow.
Not
Impressive.
not
Impressive.
overwhelming oaky jumping out at me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I totally agree. There's a little bit in there for
Mhm.
sure. Like you get the hint of that vanilla on the back end, and maybe some of those other baking spices that you would get from French oak, but it's definitely not one of the main things, at least on the nose.
I think like such a again obvious to smaller and real vineyards, but after coming from the challenge we had last month, it's so apparent when you're just drinking real wine
Yeah, it's crazy.
Totally.
after drinking wine that was so clearly artificially flavored, right?
Mhm.
And just
Yeah.
going like, this is just like naturally aged. And you're just like, oh, I'm getting hints of oak and like reminiscent of oak versus like, hi, take this oak and jam it in your face.
Yeah.
This is oak.
Welcome to Oakville, population U.
It's actually where this one is from, Oakville.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
It is.
Well done.
You're right.
Well done, well done. But yeah, it's just so like everyone should drink a glass of wine that is just like really aged in oak, and then try a glass of wine that's just like fake artificially flavored, and just like get the difference in their brain because it's dramatic in all the ways. All right, cool. Let's take some sips. Colin.
Yeah, so I think their herbalness is really the thing that stands out in this wine. Not to say that there's not fruit in here, but that kind of Joel, you said salty on the 1st sip, and I don't hate that at all. I'm right there with you on that. There is this slight salinity, and I don't know if it's part of that overall herbal experience or what's going on there, but there's definitely something I would say unfamiliar in this cab compared to other cabs, especially from Napa that I've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I don't know if this is right, and this might just be where my brain's going, but I think the fact like almost 25% of this is Malbec and Merlot is really just like I'm getting so many like pings in my brain of like Malbec and Merlot, and yeah, 75% of it is still Cab Sauv, but I wonder if those two specifically are leaning in enough ways to kind of not dull down the edges in some ways, but just kind of pinpoint in just the right spots that are kind of creating those small differences that are making it feel a little weird.
You're right. It absolutely could be the fact that there's such not a high level, but there's still a significant level of blend in here of other grapes. So that could absolutely be having an impact on what we're tasting. I mean, it should be having an impact on what we're tasting. 25% of the wine is not Cabernet Sauvignon.
It's not a small amount, right? Like,
That's right. Yeah, no, not an insignificant amount for sure. So that probably is definitely part of what we're experiencing here.
I'm listening to what you guys are saying. I'm trying to relate it to what I'm experiencing over here, and I agree with everything you guys are saying. The only way I can kind of describe this too, it's such a slingshot sort of experience. It's like the very beginning of the sip is you get some of that red fruit, and so I like the blackberry call, some of the darker fruits in there as well. And then it's just like a F1 car of salinity just like racing into your mouth. Like I don't know how to, like, it just goes from 0 to 100 so fast.
Definitely.
It's not a bad thing, but what I'm experiencing is like two completely different sips in one. And it's very, very strange. And I'm kind of wondering too, like, where is this, whether it's herbal, whether it's salinity, whatever you want to call it, where's that coming from?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
that's a really good question because it is different. Yeah, it almost gives me Syrah vibes. I think maybe, Aaron, you said peppery earlier on the nose. That might have been a really good call because Syrah has kind of that peppery undertone to it. And maybe that's a little bit of what's in here. I could absolutely see that being the case. So, there's definitely, though, it's definitely a lot harder to pick through only because it's not familiar, right? I think that's kind of the experience we're all having. It's just not what we're used to in a cab or even
especially
blend
California
of this
cab.
Blend of this style.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a unique and different experience, which is why we're having such a hard time parsing through it.
And that experience you just named there, Joel, going back to my one word, which was tannin. I saw both your faces because it is not the most tannic red wine on that.
I'm glad we ended up there.
No, it's
I
not.
thought you were going to go
not
back to my
yet.
Ferrari reference too. But
Well, it is
on.
because the Ferrari reference is where I'm going. Because when you give it a sip at first, it is kind of light on that very front sip from a body thinness. But when you give it a swish around, you get more of that tannic grip on your tongue, like the back of your palate. And at first, 'cause I like tannins in my wine. And when I first took a sip, I was like, I wish there was a little bit more tannins to this. I wish there was a little bit more. And then when I gave it a swish, I was like, oh, there it is. But it wasn't in like that front of mouth gum kind of grip that you get. And it was just it was a little bit different of a place. And so I was like, oh, okay, I found it. It was a little bit different of an experience than I was used to. And, we've had that experience with a few other wines before. It's just kind of interesting where in the experience, where in the palate that kind of activated.
Yeah, the tannin, I will say the body in general is very well balanced. I think there's enough acid. You're right, there's not a ton of tannin. And it's definitely, I'm experiencing the tannin differently based on how I sip it. I think if you swish it, you really get the whole gum grip. But if you're just casually sipping it, not really paying attention, it kind of just washes over the palate. Like
That's what I
just
was
not
saying.
a ton. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that. And then I just want to talk
I
about
had to find it. I had to go on a search for it,
Mhm.
I had to fight for it.
But once you do find it, it's nice. Like I'm enjoying the level of tannin in there. And the only other thing I want to bring up is the finish, because I think that's where you find the oak on this wine. There's quite a bit of that vanilla, a couple more of those baking spices. And depending on the sip, I'm actually picking up a little bit of coffee, which is weird. It doesn't hit me every sip, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, that is clearly that.
I do want to say I'm enjoying this. Like, I'm not trying to get into the review, but I want to specifically call out that, like, it is very unique and it is kind of wild and unexpected and goes from 0 to 100. But none of this, at least in my opinion, is in necessarily a bad way. It's just a very unique way.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
And I was reading a little bit of the winemakers notes that they sent us, which I think are very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I was thinking about, I'm like, why a screw cap on this, right? Because all the other wines they sent us from the Napa Wine Company were under a cork. And, we've learned a lot over the past couple of years about how actually a screw cap lets in, an equivalent amount of oxygen as a cork. Like there's actually a lot of movement towards screw caps from an economic and an environmental perspective. And this actually notes that this wine could be aged, they actually say 5 to 7 years, for like a nicer finish to it under the screw cap, which is also kind of a nice thought at a $25 price point. So that's
sure.
kind of a nifty idea when buying this too. Like grab a couple of these bottles at that price point and put them away for 5 to 7 years and see what that
Definitely.
looks like.
Yeah, that's cool. I wish we had a follow up with Priyanka scheduled because
I know,
I would
I
love
would
to
ask
ask
the
her about this one specifically. So cool.
Totally. All right, so a lot to think about there, and like I mentioned earlier, I've had this open for a while. You guys have had this open for slightly less time, so let's give it a little bit more time to open up, and let's dig in, learn a little bit more about Napa Cabernet blends, and give this a little bit more time to open up. So Joel, let us know what are we learning about tonight?
Well, we're drinking a blend tonight. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to take a second and really talk about, what is a blend? Because I think a lot of people, you kind of hear it, you see it on the shelf, and may not exactly know what it is or kind of why it's there. It's almost like there's this negative connotation sometimes, I think, that the word, blend will kind of bring up in somebody's head. You almost think like it's a little less serious. It's not as, what's the word?
It's almost like a table wine to me, right? It's in my head somewhere.
I think that's how people can kind of equate it. Yeah, like it's not as nice maybe at the end of the day, right? So, like, for example, in this, we're drinking, it's, 75% Cabernet Sauvignon. I think, it might be kind of natural to think, why not just make it fully 100% Cabernet Sauvignon? Why are we adding in the Merlot? Why are we adding in the Malbec? All that good stuff. Why not kind of just let the Cabernet do its thing? Why make it a blend to begin with?
Yeah, and that's the way I used to feel about blends too. I used to think they were just, throwing grapes together because that's what winemakers did, I didn't know it was intentional.
Right. There's that word again, intention. That comes up a lot in wine,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
That's right. Well,
So
good
almost like
wine
they know
anyway.
what they're doing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. But the more you get into wine, the more you realize that there's a purpose for blending. It's more like adjusting a recipe, not just throwing things together at the last minute. And it's not because that there's anything wrong with a single variety wine. We've tasted some great single variety wines, but different grapes can add different things to blends where some grapes might have, holes in them.
I mean, it's probably the best way to think about it, right? Like it's not random; it's problem solving. Because the Cabernet might give you the structure and the grip and the power that you're looking for, but it might be missing like a softness, or it might be missing, like the flavor you're looking for. It might have the right smell, but the taste might fall off too quickly. You might have the dark fruit that you want, but it might be too heavy or it might be too flat. So like you said earlier, it's about finding the right recipe, and that's where you take the other grapes and you kind of mix and match. They keep tweaking it until they get it into just the right way they want it.
Yeah, and here is where it's like enter Cabernet Sauvignon. It is kind of like the workhorse, the big powerful grape, and I think people think about that, and when you hear Cabernet, that's kind of what makes it a little bit divisive sometimes. People either like that boldness or sometimes people don't, and that's really what people are kind of reacting to when they say they do or don't like it. And I think the truth is, Cab can be a little tough, kind of overwhelming sometimes, especially young Napa Cab. It can feel dry. It can have that overwhelming tannin, but it can be aggressive. And I think that, if you're not totally into that, people can kind of leave that and say, man, I really wish that I like Cab, but it's just, I wish I don't like it that much. I wish I could like it more than I actually do.
And I think that's a really good point. And I think that's where blending really becomes practical in all of this, right? Because people, like you mentioned, they don't dislike Cab because of the
Yeah.
flavors. They can dislike it maybe because it can be too intense structurally. Well, that's where something like Merlot can get added in to really smooth
Hmm.
things out. So you're not always blending just to change the flavor, although blending can absolutely change the flavor, but sometimes there is some structural elements as well that can really make the wine more complete.
I think there's a small percentages that I think people underestimate, right? Like you'll see something like Petit Verdot and you'll see like 3% and 4%. Uh, and then people will think like, well, why is that even there? Right? Like
Yeah.
we had that conversation recently. And you almost don't want to say anything to the winemaker and be like, why did you do that? Because you don't want to offend the sensibility and be, but like it has a really important purpose. Like Petit Verdot can like tighten up the finish of the wine. Like Cab Franc, it has a really specific flavor to it, has a really specific nose to it, and it can have a really big impact on the wine with a very small percentage in there. So, sometimes you just need to add a little bit to have a big impact on the wine. Again, like we've had a lot of conversation today about why this cab feels so different.
Yeah.
And again, I look at that 14% and that 10% of the Malbec and the Merlot, and I'm like, all right, like that has to be it. Just those like relatively small percentages really having this
Sure.
huge impact on this Napa Valley cab. And so, when someone says like this cab feels smoother or this cab feels fresher or smells fresher or this cab, doesn't hit as hard, like we got to dig in and look at the blend and see what's going on there beyond just like the, Napa Valley cab title.
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway here is don't be afraid of blends. Honestly, if you think about
Yeah.
some of the best wines in the world, think Bordeaux. Those are
Hmm.
all blends there, and they do it very intentionally. They're not just throwing grapes in together. So blended wines can be absolutely fantastic. They can be beautiful, and it's just a different category and a different way to make wine. But it's a category of wine absolutely worth exploring because if you're all single varietal all the time, I think you're missing out
Hmm.
on a lot of quality wine.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think tonight's wine is a fantastic example of that too, because I think the one thing that we've said tonight when we were digging into this, like, wow, this tastes unique,
Hmm.
right? We didn't say it tasted like, oh, this tasted like Cab Sauv with something else in it. We like couldn't put our finger on exactly what it tasted like because I think they nailed that it tasted like something new.
Yep.
Yeah.
It tasted like a blend. It tasted like they achieved something unique and something special. So,
That's
that's what we're trying to get to.
that's a great call out, Aaron. It's not that this is the most unique Cabernet Sauvignon blend I've had. It's that this is one of the most unique wines I've had. Like
Yeah.
they've made its own category here.
All right, very cool. Who would have thought that we'd be having a whole learning segment about blends at this point? Like,
It's an important
That's what we
topic.
do.
I mean,
it
Gotta talk
is.
about
yeah, people got to
It is.
know.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a whole
People
world out there,
got
guys.
to know.
Cool.
All right, so we gave a little bit of time to air out. What we're going to do now is I'm going to give you a moment to do any last tasting notes that might have popped out, any new aromas, any new flavors that might come out to you, and then you're going to go ahead and give your final review. Any new listeners joining us on the show, we don't really believe in numbers on the show. We're more about vibes. We want you to think about who you want to drink with, where you want to drink. On the show, the wines that we love the most are called must shares. These are the exceptional bottles of wine that just have something a little bit extra that deserve to be shared with folks. Solid pours are the wines that are just really good bottles of wine, really good value. Casual sippers are enjoyable, but maybe not that memorable. And wines that are overvalued, low quality, or just generally undrinkable are wastes of your wine.
Mm-mm.
On the show,
Get 'em outta here.
we all get 3 bottles of wine in our personal wine fridges each year. Those are our 3 favorite bottles of wine per year. If we want to put a new bottle in, we got to take a bottle out. So
It's tough.
it gets tough, but
So tough.
that's how we rank wines on the show. I do not have to go first because I'm currently hosting the show and I get to pick who goes first because neither of them brought the bottle. So Colin, you get to go first.
Surprise, surprise. The one thing about not hosting is I give my review first like 9 times out of 10.
Cheers to that. Appreciate that,
Yeah.
Aaron. Thank you, buddy.
For sure. So I will say this wine has definitely gotten less herbal over time. The fruit has really come forward, like significantly. Almost one of the most significant changes that I remember having on this show in a really long time in a short amount of time because I've only had my bottle open for maybe an hour now. But the difference between the first sip an hour ago and what I'm experiencing now is almost night and day. It really is that significant of a difference. And it's only gotten better, to be honest. That fruit is really shining through. I think you're getting a lot more oak now. You still get some of that herbalness, but it's definitely now a background player to a lot more of the more traditional wine flavors, right? It's not as herbal, it's not as salty. Like that saltiness is really backed off, which I was actually kind of enjoying. I don't know what it was about that, but
Still there, though.
still there
Still there.
for sure. For sure, but all of that I think is playing now a backup role to the fruit and even a little bit more of that oak. So all that being said, I think for the value at 25 bucks, this is an absolute solid pour. Like this is just a really interesting blend. And it's definitely a wine that I'm enjoying and I keep wanting to go back to because it is evolving. I think it's really cool to find a wine in this price range that evolves as much as this has in the last hour or so. So this is definitely one I would recommend if you want a really cool blend and you want that experience of watching a wine evolve in the glass as you're drinking it. I would say there's no better wine than that. You know, it's super enjoyable, super cool experience. And I just think it's a really good wine and really good value. Absolutely check this one out. Solid pour.
Absolutely. Joel?
You absolutely called out one of the coolest things about this. The evolution is just very,
Wild.
very cool to experience.
Wild,
yeah,
right?
it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely has relaxed a little bit. That 0 to 100 we were talking about up front, maybe 0 to 60 now. It's still there though.
Mhm.
I'm happy to report.
Yep.
Because I do think that that's one of the things that makes this one of the more unique experiences. And I think also what's maybe poking out here a little bit more than before is just that it's always had a nice structure, but now just that acidity is we're able to see it a little bit more. And it's kind of like made for, like you said, a little bit more traditional, well-rounded sip, but still with some very unique, cool qualities about it.
Absolutely.
So really liking that. Love the call out to you. The fruit playing a little bit bigger of a role. I think still maybe 50-50 on that and the herbalness and the salinity. If I keep this open for another 30, 40 minutes, maybe that changes.
For sure. It used to be like 70-30 though, right? Like it used to be like herbal, fruit. Now it's like,
For sure.
we're all playing the same game.
For sure. Absolutely. But even that is a aspect of this that I appreciate throughout every part of this. Right when I first opened it, obviously, you know, I was like a little bit like, whoa, this is very interesting, and wasn't 100% sure. And as it's gone, I'm enjoying this more and more and more because of that. And considering the fact that this is the $25 offering, this is going to be a must share for me.
Oh,
It's been
nice.
one of the coolest wine experiences and just been fun the entire way through. So yeah, I'm putting it up there.
Love that.
Man, that's exciting. Wow. Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of this wine. I think it's really tasty. I love the price point. I think for me,
Going down the drain.
just straight down the drain. No.
Sorry, Priyanka.
No. Super tasty wine. I really like the city. I really like the structure. You know, I just like a little bit more tannin on there. You know, I would just like
God loves tannin.
That was it. I do think it's a really solid pour. And I'm locked in on that, like, lay it down for 5 to 7 years. And I gotta believe that if you bought this, like, I would buy like a case of this at $20 and just lay them down and then open these guys up in like 5 years and just wonder how wonderful it would be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think this is one of those bottles that, like, right now it's a solid pour. In 5-7 years from now, it's a must share, if not something even more special than that. So really, really well made wine. Really good,
Oh, yeah.
super interesting, super unique, just really great. And like so far, so impressed with everything we've had so far from Napa Wine Company.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Just really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But also, like, just one other note, like, decant this for sure.
Yeah.
This is
Give it some
definitely one,
love.
if you don't want to take the journey right through all that kind of herbalness up front, like, just decant it for an hour. Even you could probably decant this for
Get
2
a
hours.
little aerator.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I mean, 2 solid pours and must share. This is obviously a wine that we highly recommend.
Yep.
Yes.
Check it out. And I mean, we still got one more week of Napa Wine Company. I'm excited.
Can't wait.
And if I get out to California anytime soon, I'm going to be checking out all of their wineries. My God.
Obviously, a quality producer. I mean, they obviously care. Even their entry $20, entry for them, their $20 price point is excellent. It's
Forget
good
about
wine.
it.
I would absolutely just suggest people check this one out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Once again, a huge shout out and thank you for sending the wine. And we're just loving it so far and excited to have one more week. But before we go, we have to play a game. And Joel, you have a fantastic pick your poison for us. So what do you have for us, sir?
Listen, this may or may not have actually been a situation, and I need your advice on something. So let me set the stage. A little pick your poison. By the way, if you haven't played this game with us before, we present kind of 2 options in an interesting scenario, and we're presented with the challenge to pick your poison. Which of the 2, not so glamorous ones are you going to pick? So here's my pick your poison for you, gentlemen. Okay, I'll set the scene a little bit. Sitting at a fancy dinner, you got your brand new boss to your left, okay? Coming around, talking to a sommelier. They're taking orders for wine. Your boss, before you, orders the exact wine that you want, but mispronounces the name, okay?
No. Oh, no.
All right?
Oh,
Maybe says Chateauneuf de Papi, okay?
Little Pinot Grigio.
A little Pinot Grigio, exactly.
Ordering a Bordeaux.
A Bordeaux, perfect example. Yes,
I hope not.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's my question: pick your poison. When they come to you, are you A, pronouncing it correctly to save face with the sommelier, or are you pronouncing it incorrectly, the same way that your brand new boss just mispronounced it to save face with them?
What a scenario.
What do you think?
God, I could feel the awkward tension building
Put yourself in the seat.
in my own bones right now. Like I can feel it and I hate it.
It's funny because I feel like I've been on both sides of this before.
Yeah.
Because I've been at an Italian restaurant with a bunch of opera singers who insisted on when they order their food only,
Yes.
flipping into Italian accents to order their food.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
So then it gets to me and I'm like, I'm not gonna order my rigatoni in like a full Italian accent. Like that
The Giada
that
effect.
seems pretentious and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like full American, like mozzarella. So like I don't in that case I don't feel the need for like correct true pronunciation.
Sure.
But in this case,
I feel like that's different. I see what you're saying 100%. Agree.
like, in that case, they'd be
This
like,
is
well, you're not
different.
pronouncing it correctly. But in this case, like, no, I'm not going to. Okay. Pick my poison. I'm not going to be intentionally stupid to try to not offend my new boss. Like, I'm sorry if this comes off as terrible, but like if my boss orders like musket or like Syrah, like I'm gonna like I'm gonna order the
What's
right
musket?
thing.
Oh, Muscat.
Muscat.
Muscat? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna order I'm just gonna order it right, and like I'm not gonna like lean in and be like, oh, you mean a Riesling?
Yeah,
like
that's right.
I'm not gonna be a jerk about it.
That's right.
I'll probably try to say it real quick, but like
Sure. Yes. That's it. That's it.
but yeah, I'm gonna say it right. I'm not gonna stupid myself for someone else.
Yes.
100. I agree. You have to say it right, but it's all about how you say it, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
rub it in the guy's face that he's saying it wrong. He's like, I'll have the Riesling, not the Riesling. Like, come on, like you don't need to be that
Yeah.
guy. But
It's Syrah.
yeah, exactly. You got to say the
Yeah.
word correctly, especially in our position. I mean, we have a wine podcast. You can't be out there saying wrong words.
Yeah. No. Agreed. You guys are making me feel better because I threw my menu on the table, stared at him in his eyes, and said, Gewürztraminer.
I mean, bold wine.
Do you still have
decision.
that job?
Yeah, no. Actually, I love how you said to Aaron, you say it correctly, but you say it very quick, and just move on. I think that's the move. I'm with
For
you
sure.
guys. Love it.
That's funny.
And I say it quickly too because I'm also probably mispronouncing it.
That could be the situation too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, fantastic. That was such a good one. Joel.
That was a good one.
Oh my
Joel.
god.
Well done.
Thank you.
If you out there been in that situation, let us know what you think. Would you mispronounce it to keep your boss happy, or would you lean into it and say it the right way? Let us know. Let us know in the comments.
Boss, in-laws,
We'd like to know.
judgy aunt, uncle, whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Fantastic week. We have another great week ahead of us and so many other great weeks ahead of us. We have a whole schedule going into the summer. So many great wines coming up. So many great producers coming our way. We have some great guests coming on to the show. Just a lot of excellence.
It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Good wine, good people, good times. Joel.
Yeah.
Let the people know how they can be part of all the fun.
Thanks for asking me. And folks, it's easy. YouTube, Instagram. Just go on there, search Stop Wasting Your Wine. We'll pop right up. And if you find yourself looking for a website to go peruse, stopwastingyourwine.com is a great one. You'll see all of our stuff. And I would just say, too, wherever you're listening, if you haven't followed us, please do. And tell a friend. We'd appreciate it.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, folks, we will see you next week.
And remember, stop wasting your wine.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.